Nagi Seishiro is considered one of the best players in all of BLUELOCK ever since his first appearance in the show, all the way to the current time in the manga. But there's been a lot of discussion about Nagi, specifically about his ego and why he's lost it in the current arc of BLUELOCK. Ego is one of the most important parts of the show. It's what separates BLUELOCK from other sports manga, so Nagi, who is again one of the best players, losing it is a pretty big deal. There has been a lot of Nagi backlash recently, and I think it is originating from this. So I'll be going over Nagi's development of his ego, actually discussing whether he lost it or not, and what this means for Nagi moving forward. My name's Hiryo. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button. At the time of this recording, we're currently at 6.8 thousand subscribers. So close to that 7K mark, and I can't be more grateful. If you're interested in discussing anything BLUELOCK as well, join my community Discord. We're just starting up, and I'm often in there giving updates or just chatting with you guys. So yeah, join up, the links in the description. Going back to the video though, I want to get some things out of the way first. I'm not saying I 100% believe that Nagi lost his ego. It is implied but never outright confirmed. I'll be going over the evidence later though. And second, this is a discussion video, so I want to discuss it with you guys. I want to know what your guys' theories are on Nagi losing his ego and what the evidence means to you. That being said though, let's jump straight into the video. So the start of Nagi's ego really originated from the Team Z game, and of course was sparked by our boy Isagi. By losing to Team Z and specifically Isagi, this gives him the drive to beat him, or in other words, his ego. His ego is something I'll discuss later on, but it's pretty much winning or showing people up. You'll see what I mean later. His ego is super important to keep in mind because it leads him to make decisions like teaming up with Isagi to become stronger, wanting to understand soccer more, and the frustration of losing. It's important to know that in between the time Nagi lost to Isagi in the first selection, all the way up until the NEL, he really sees Isagi as his rival, someone he strives to be, and someone he wants to show up, which relates to his ego. He says it in episode Nagi, after clearing the second selection, and then quite literally when Chris Prince asks what his goal is. Nagi doesn't even care about his salary or the NEL, he just wants to beat Isagi. Isagi was ultimately the one person that caused all this change, like his frustration, curiosity, stuff like that, so I see why it has him so fired up. The NEL though is where we get the most development for Nagi's ego and a lot more insight on it. Like I said earlier, when Prince asks what Nagi's goal is, he just says he wants to beat Isagi. He doesn't have a clear way to achieve it, he can't imagine a way to, he just doesn't want to lose to him. Remember that he only chose to team up with Augie and learn more about football to solely beat Isagi. And when it obviously wasn't working, he teamed back up with Ryo to help him beat Isagi. So although Nagi does care about improving, he cares more about winning, and that's why he teamed back up with Ryo so that he can win. This is why Augie lost interest in him. Instead of taking the steps to learn how to do it himself, he relies on Ryo to do it instead. It does make sense from Nagi's perspective. You obviously want to take the steps that help you achieve your goal. So Nagi's ego is, in a nutshell, winning, with his goal for his ego being to beat Isagi. And this is where we get to the part where people say that Nagi lost his ego. In the Manshine vs Bastard game, we get the inevitable matchup between Isagi and Nagi, with again, Nagi's full-time drive to beat Isagi. This helps him enter the flow, as the whole time his challenge has been to beat Isagi. And he pulls it off with the 5-shot revolver, which is still one of the best goals in BLUELOCK. And he ends up beating a high-skill player like Isagi, Metavision and all, because of his flow state. And that makes him a super dangerous player. But keep in mind, he is in the flow state. For someone like Nagi, who is super lazy, to get in the flow state is a super hard task for him. He doesn't find too many things amusing, he gets bored easily, and he hasn't had any other goals that we've seen besides beating Isagi. Now imagine if Ryo passed it towards Kaiser's side, who is also a high-skilled player like Isagi. Because his goal wasn't to beat Kaiser, he wouldn't have entered the flow or had the challenge to beat him, and I truly believe that he wouldn't have pulled the 5-shot off or entered the flow state in general if he did. Isagi also confirms this, saying that Nagi could only perform like that because it was a realistic challenge for him to do it. This is then followed up by Nagi saying what's next after beating Isagi, and the big reason why people think he lost his ego. By completing his goal, he no longer has the drive to keep him moving forward with his ego like before. And we all know Nagi's lazy as hell, so he obviously wouldn't have the drive to just do it himself if he doesn't have a goal in mind. Ego also comments that Nagi's goal was a fluke because he won't be able to replicate it, and that it was too good even for a talent like his. He also says something super interesting, that the depths of Nagi's ego are about to be tested, and I think Ego is 100% correct here. Again, because he completed his goal of beating Isagi, he no longer has another goal that fires him up as much as it did. He literally improved as a player because of his drive to beat Isagi, he entered the flow state and was able to pull off insane plays because of it, and now that he doesn't have the drive to move forward, he would essentially just be stuck there. And Nagi's talent is still really good even if he's just stuck there, but I think there's a few things we're missing. First thing I want to talk about is the pressure to perform. And I'm getting this because in the exact panel they're talking about it, there's a bunch of Twitter-like posts behind Nagi. I think there's a meaning to this. Nagi was able to score because he was facing Isagi, which was his challenge, and Ego sees that. Fans on the outside just see this insane, impossible shot and are calling it the best goal of the year, claiming that Nagi's the best player, yada yada. We know that it was because Nagi has had a rivalry with Isagi, and it's not like that for everyone else, but people don't really know that. They just see this insane goal, and this may cause fans to really put pressure on Nagi to perform like that every single game against every single player, when he obviously can't because he doesn't have a goal and he doesn't have anything pushing him. We also know that Nagi's boredom was solved when he had a goal, and now that he doesn't have a goal that excites him or fires him up anymore, he's gonna go back to just being bored, maybe not finding soccer fun, not wanting to grind and improve, stuff like that. It's evident in episode Nagi, but before losing to Isagi, all he did was really just play games and skipped practice. And then after losing, he started training, getting up, and taking an active role in improving. So you're pretty much getting the combination of not finding what you do fun, and then a bunch of pressure from both the audience and probably your team. That's why Ego says the depths of Nagi's ego are about to be tested. Will he prevail through all of that pressure and find another goal, or will it have dangerous after effects like he said? Okay, that was a lot of ego talk, and I may have confused you a little bit, but a little recap is that Nagi doesn't have a goal now and won't be able to perform like he did when he had one. This in turn puts pressure on him from the audience watching and maybe even teammates because he performed so well when he had a goal. He may also just not find soccer fun anymore because he doesn't have anyone to beat or work to. This is why people claim that Nagi's ego is gone, and this is where the theory part starts. What does this mean for the future of Nagi, and how can he get his ego back? So did Nagi lose his ego? A resounding maybe from me. He lost his goal, which is kind of considered his ego, but again, his ego is to win, and we'll go more in depth with that later. For the future of Nagi, I predict that we'll get some more development for him, maybe learning to be more self-reliant or learning about his ego, and then obviously going through the trials of finding a goal that excites him and whatnot. I think that part will be pretty important for his character, and we'll get a lot of chapters for it, since Nagi does need to develop a little bit compared to all the other strikers in BLUELOCK. Shinigami, Shido, Rin, Baro, Isagi, all of these characters are prime contenders for the forward spots, and have already or will get a ton of development to make them exponentially better. And like I said earlier, even though Nagi is still really good with just his raw talent, it's crucial that he develops or finds a goal so that he can perform at his best and be put in contention for the Japan U20. But again, finding this goal will be super hard for him, especially at the level they're at, so it's gonna be interesting to see how someone who's lazy like Nagi take an active role. And I do know he wants to complete his shared goal with Ryo to win the World Cup, but it is Ryo's goal and not his own, so it wouldn't excite him as much as it did when he faced Isagi. There's also another option, although an unlikely option, which is Nagi quitting soccer and BLUELOCK. Now this is kind of reaching, as I think the author does have a little Nagi bias, and Nagi does have a lot of fans, including myself, but it does have some points. Nagi might not be able to take the pressure, he completed his goals already, and we already have a lot of people in contention for the striker position. Even though there are a lot of people fighting for the spot, I seriously doubt that Nagi will stop, as I think Nagi will still help Ryo achieve his goal, but it is an option. So how do I think Nagi will get his ego back? Well, I'm not entirely sure myself, but like Ryo said, maybe small goals for him will help him achieve the flow, but I think Nagi really likes to prove people wrong. In episode Nagi, this is really prevalent. We see it in the game against Baro, where he specifically challenges him to prove him wrong, and then the whole time with Isagi, who was the person who told Nagi that he's gonna stop him. Both of these times had the same occurrence happening, Nagi moving on his own and choosing the riskier option, just to show the other player up. And we know it wasn't just for Ryo, as Ryo literally went up to Nagi and asked if it was for him, and he said not really, so Nagi's goal or ego is to pretty much show people up. That's what I talked about earlier, but we could see some more evidence. He wants to win against a fired up Team Z to see how good it would feel to crush their dreams, and specifically Isagi, quite literally saying he wants to swallow Isagi's goal whole. So I think that that will play a huge role in Nagi getting his ego back. Maybe he finds another person he wants to crush, and Baro might just be that, but he's already beaten him, so I'm not entirely sure. That's why I said I want to know what you guys think, as there are so many different possibilities and outcomes to how Nagi can get his ego back. Maybe he finds another person, or maybe he just finds a long-term goal. I think Nagi is a character with so much potential to push the plot in certain ways, so we'll see what happens next. If you watched to the end, thank you so much for watching. This is kind of a more rushed video, like there's probably some more evidence or things I could have covered, like Ryo's role or Nagi's aura, but I'm not looking too much into it as I want to know y'all's theories are, so make sure you comment that down below, and if you want to discuss it even further, join the community Discord, the link's always in the description. My name's Hiryo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.